You crossed it. Maybe it happened quietly. A promotion that finally pushed the number past 6 figures. Maybe it took changing companies, negotiating harder than felt comfortable, or spending years proving yourself in roles that paid less than you knew you were worth. However it happened, it happened. You're making $120,000 a year. For a long time, that number lived somewhere in the distance as proof that you had made it. A milestone. A destination. The kind of salary that was supposed to solve the money stress for good. You imagined that once you got there, the constant low-level calculation would stop. You imagined you would finally feel like you had some breathing room. And for a little while, it felt exactly like that. The first few paychecks felt different. You checked your account and felt relief instead of anxiety. The future looked closer. The pressure eased. You finally felt like you were moving forward instead of simply staying afloat. There was even a quiet sense of pride, the kind that comes from knowing you worked for something and actually got it. Then something strange happened. The feeling faded. Not dramatically. Not overnight. Just slowly. Until one day you realized you were making more money than you ever expected to make, and somehow you still did not feel rich. You still worried about unexpected expenses. You still hesitated before large purchases. You still felt tied to the next paycheck. The stress didn't disappear. It just changed shape. It became quieter, but it never fully left. And the questions started showing up more often than you wanted to admit. If I earn this much money, why does it still feel like I'm not getting ahead? That question is more common than most people realize. There's a strange financial territory between roughly $80,000 and $150,000 a year where millions of people find themselves stuck. Not poor enough to panic. Not wealthy enough to relax. Just stuck in the middle. The bills get paid. The retirement account gets a contribution. The vacations happen occasionally. Life looks successful from the outside. But there's still a quiet awareness that something is not adding up, because the salary grew. But the freedom never seemed to grow with it. Most people assume the problem is spending. Others assume it's discipline. Some blame inflation. Some blame the economy. The truth is usually much simpler than all of that. The problem is not the amount you earn. The problem is what happens after you earn it. Think about what happened when your income started rising. The apartment got better. Then the car. Then the restaurants and vacations started feeling like normal rather than special. The grocery cart changed. Flights became more convenient. Hotel rooms got slightly nicer. None of these decisions felt reckless on their own. Each one made sense in the moment. You worked harder. You earned more. It felt fair to upgrade a few things. That is exactly why this trap is so effective. Nobody wakes up one morning and decides to spend every future raise before it arrives. It happens gradually, 100 small upgrades, 100 reasonable decisions that individually seem harmless. The lifestyle expands quietly, and because it happens slowly, it feels normal. You make more. Life costs more. You make more again. Life adjusts again. The cycle repeats. The strange part is that the lifestyle often expands faster than the wealth. One evening you open your banking app and notice something difficult to explain. The savings account exists. The retirement account exists. The investments exist. But they are not where you expected them to be after years of earning at this level. The balances have grown, just not by the amount you imagined they would when you first started chasing this salary. The difference is not large enough to create panic. It is just large enough to create doubt. And that doubt matters because it is usually the first sign that the problem is structural rather than mathematical. Most people earning in this range are not facing obvious financial disaster. That is what makes the situation difficult to recognize. When someone is buried in debt, the problem announces itself. The notices arrive. The balances grow. The pressure becomes impossible to ignore. But when the paycheck covers the month, the danger becomes quieter. There is no emergency. There is only a pattern where income rises faster than wealth, where every improvement gets absorbed before it has a chance to build anything permanent, where years pass, and the gap between what you earn and what you own remains surprisingly small. Here is what that often looks like in practice. Imagine someone earning $120,000 a year. After taxes and deductions, take-home pay might land somewhere around $7,000 a month. Sounds like plenty, until the money starts getting assigned jobs. Housing takes $2,000 to $3,000. Transportation takes $800 to $1,200. Utilities, subscriptions, internet, phone, and gym memberships take several hundred more. Groceries, insurance, and student loans take their share. Before long, $5,000 or more is already spoken for before a single discretionary decision has been made. Now there is roughly $2,000 left. That sounds comfortable until life starts happening. A wedding invitation, a work trip, a flight home, a medical expense, a home repair, a birthday gift, a weekend away. The thing that always arrives unexpectedly, even though something unexpected seems to arrive every month. The remaining money disappears. Not because of recklessness, but because the structure consumes it. And every year that structure becomes slightly more expensive. Rent rises. Insurance rises. Repairs rise. Taxes rise. Life gets more expensive, while salary increases often move slower than people expect. Not enough to create a crisis. Just enough to create a slow leak. And slow leaks are dangerous because they are easy to ignore. Eventually people notice the leak. When they do, they usually try one of three solutions. Some chase more income. They work overtime, switch companies, start freelancing, or launch a side hustle. Sometimes the income rises. For a while, everything feels lighter. Then the lifestyle catches up, the extra money gets absorbed, and they find themselves standing in the same place again, just with a larger paycheck. Others enter the budget phase. They download the app, track every dollar, cancel subscriptions, and optimize everything. For a few weeks, the numbers improve. Then work gets stressful, life gets busy, and the tracking becomes inconsistent until it disappears entirely. The budgeting app remains on the phone as a reminder of a system that lasted 6 weeks. The third response is waiting for the next raise, waiting for mortgage to shrink, waiting for the kids to get older, waiting for some future version of life where everything finally clicks into place. This is often the most expensive response because it feels free, but it costs years. And years are the one thing compound growth cannot give back. The problem with all three approaches is the same. They focus on symptoms, not structure. The actual issue is sequence. Most people run a spending system with a savings feature attached to the end. The paycheck arrives, bills get paid, life gets funded, and whatever survives gets considered for saving. Saving happens last, and whatever happens last usually receives whatever is left over, which is often very little. The people who quietly build wealth at the exact same income level operate differently. Not because they earn dramatically more, but because they follow a different sequence. The paycheck arrives and money leaves immediately into investment accounts, retirement accounts, and asset-building accounts. The future gets paid first. The present gets funded from what remains. That sounds simple because it is. Simple is not the same thing as easy. Easy is waiting until the end of a month and hoping something is left. Simple is deciding in advance and removing the decision entirely. People are remarkably good at spending whatever is visible. If money sits in checking, it feels available. If money leaves before it becomes visible, life adjusts around what remains. That adjustment is where the real difference starts to accumulate. The people who eventually become financially secure are not always the highest earners. Often they are the people who learn to redirect increases before lifestyle absorbs them. Every raise becomes a decision point. Every bonus becomes a decision point. Every increase creates a fork in the road. One direction expands lifestyle, the other expands future options. The difference rarely feels dramatic in the moment. It becomes visible years later. There is another layer to this that most people overlook. The job itself changes as income rises. The title improves. The responsibilities increase. The expectations rise. The compensation follows. But the time rarely comes back. In many cases, the opposite happens. Higher income arrives attached to higher demands. The salary compensates for the hours. It does not return the hours. And time is what people need to think strategically rather than reactively. Without time, everything becomes maintenance. The paycheck arrives, the obligations take their share, the month gets managed, then the cycle repeats. That is why so many six-figure earners feel trapped despite making objectively good money. The income solved some problems, but it also created a life that depends on maintaining that income. Every month still requires full participation. That is not freedom. It is maintenance. The difference between maintenance and freedom is assets. Assets create options. An investment account receiving $600 every month for decades does not simply create a retirement balance. It creates choices: the choice to leave a job, the choice to survive uncertainty, the choice to take time off, the choice to make decisions from strength rather than necessity. Most people understand this intellectually. The challenge is implementation, because implementation feels uncomfortable at first. Imagine receiving a raise worth $500 a month. Most people gradually absorb it into a slightly nicer apartment, a slightly newer car, more convenience, and more spending. The wealth-building version looks different. The automatic investment increases immediately. The spending account barely changes. For a while it feels like receiving a raise without receiving one. That feeling is temporary. The results are not. Two people can earn the same income for 15 years. One allows every raise to become lifestyle. The other directs most raises toward assets. 5 years later they look similar. 10 years later the gap becomes noticeable. 15 years later they are living completely different financial realities. Same income, same city, similar careers, different sequence, different outcome. That is the part most people miss. We spend enormous amounts of time discussing income. Very little time discussing flow. Income matters. What happens to it after it arrives determines everything. $120,000 flowing through a system designed only for consumption produces one result. $120,000 flowing through a system designed to build assets produces another. Same salary, different destination. That is why a six-figure income often fails to create the feeling people expected. The salary was never supposed to be the finish line. It was supposed to be the opportunity, the raw material, the starting point. The real question was always what happened after the money arrived. So if you have been earning well for years and the net worth still does not reflect what the salary should have built, that is not a judgment. It is information. It means the structure deserves a closer look. The path forward does not require a crisis. It does not require extreme frugality. It does not require selling everything and starting over. It requires adjusting the sequence before the next paycheck arrives, deciding what percentage leaves first, automating it, removing the monthly debate, and then allowing time to do what time has always done. Compound the results. The first few months will not feel dramatic. The equilibrium may feel exactly the same. But something important will be different. Something will finally be moving. And one day you will check an account you barely think about anymore and realize it is larger than you expected. Not because of a windfall. Not because of luck. Not because of a secret investment strategy. Because the system was finally pointed in the right direction. Quietly. Consistently. Without requiring your attention every month to keep it working. That is what financial progress usually looks like in real life. Quiet. Consistent. Easy to miss while it is happening. Subscribe for more videos about the money patterns most people notice too late.